The galaxy was wide, full of stars, full of empires, and full of pride. Around the shining tables of the Galactic Council, alien leaders spoke with laughter in their voices. They laughed at humans. They laughed at the old stories that spread through trading routes and old libraries. The stories of human warships. Some said the ships were larger than cities, built from metals stronger than any known alloy, powered by engines that could move planets. Others whispered that the warships were not only real, but hidden, waiting somewhere in the dark void. But most of the galaxy only laughed. "These are just myths," the counselors said, their voices echoing across the grand chamber. Humans were small. Humans were weak. They had no empire, no fleets, no great weapons. They're gone now. Forgotten. Why should we fear bedtime stories from a dead world? The chamber filled with amusement. To them, human warships were only legends. The galaxy had no patience for legends. Yet far away, in the quiet places between stars, whispers refused to die. Traders told of ships vanishing near a dead system. Explorers swore they saw shadows moving against the light of a red star. A few even said they picked up strange signals, coded in an ancient Earth language. But when these reports reached the council, they were dismissed. "Hallucinations," said one alien. "Pirates," said another. Excuses mocked a third. The more the warnings came, the louder the council laughed. In the outer rim, an alien scout captain sat in silence inside his small ship. His name was Loro, and he was not laughing. His sensors had caught something near a dark nebula, a mass bigger than anything he had ever seen. It did not move. It did not signal. It simply existed, like a silent wall of shadow. Loro tried to explain this to his commanders. They laughed at him too. "You've been in deep space too long. Go home, rest your mind." But Loro could not forget. He recorded the signals, the images, the heavy silence that pressed against his hull. And then, without warning, his transmission stopped. The scout ship was never heard from again. No distress call, no wreckage, just silence. At first, the council treated it as a joke. Another one lost to their own foolishness, they said. But somewhere deep inside their alien hearts, a crack of fear formed. If the legends were truly fake, then why did these ships vanish without trace? Why did the signals repeat the same ghostly pattern? 3 pulses, 1 pause, 3 pulses again. The pattern was ancient, older than most of the Council's empires. It matched something from old human archives. Morse code. Still, the Council would not admit it. They feared to give power to human myths. They feared to say out loud what some already suspected. So they laughed louder. They mocked harder. They told each other there was nothing to fear. They told their people that humans were weak and warships from Earth were only tales for children. But legends are not born without reason. Every myth carries a seed of truth. And while the galaxy laughed, that truth was waking in the dark. The myths of human warships had lived for centuries, passed from voice to voice, written in secret data files, carried by smugglers and explorers. Some said these ships were built not for war, but for survival. Others said they were made to fight an enemy so terrible that the galaxy had erased all memory of it. And some whispered that humans themselves had hidden their warships, choosing silence instead of conquest. Whatever the truth was, it was waiting with patience that only metal and machine could know. In the council chamber, the laughter slowly began to fade. Too many scouts were disappearing. Too many shadows moved in places where no planets should exist. Too many signals, always the same. The council tried to explain it away, but even their own guards whispered in fear. The idea of human warships returned, stronger now, no longer just a joke. But still, the proud leaders told themselves it was nothing. Still, they called the stories foolish. Still, they believed no human power could rise again. And yet, far beyond their eyes, something stirred. A silence that was not empty. A shadow that was not natural. A myth that was not dead. The galaxy laughed at legends of human warships. But legends have a way of becoming real. And soon, the laughter would stop. The scout ship was gone, and the galaxy tried to forget. The council gathered again in their shining chamber, the voices of hundreds of alien empires mixing into one endless noise. Reports of missing ships were pushed aside, hidden under new laws and empty speeches. Do not speak of humans, one counselor demanded. Do not feed old legends. But silence never kills truth. In the lower levels of the archives, in forgotten libraries where dust and data mixed, an alien historian named Krava worked alone. Krava was old, with eyes dim from age, but his mind was sharp. He had studied the humans longer than anyone alive. He had read their books, their wars, their last transmissions before Earth was lost. He had seen drawings of their ships, long, sharp, black as night, carrying weapons beyond reason. And he had read the warnings humans left behind, words burned into old records. If you ever see our warships again, it will not be by accident. When Krava brought this evidence to the council, the chamber exploded with laughter. You are chasing ghosts, old one, they said. Humans could not build such things. They were children compared to us. But Krava did not laugh. He showed them the repeating signal. 3 pulses, 1 pause, 3 pulses that kept appearing in the void. He told them it was Morse code, an ancient human language used to send messages across war. He explained that it always repeated the same word, awake. The chamber fell quiet for a moment, but then pride returned, and the counselors mocked him again. A trick, they said, an echo of natural radiation. Do not waste our time. Krava left in silence, but his warning was carried by whispers among the guards, the workers, and the scouts who traveled the stars. The more the council mocked, the more the common people believed. Fear spread like smoke. To prove the historian wrong, the council sent a larger fleet to the Dead Star system where Loro had vanished. 50 ships, strong and armed, led by a proud commander named Varuk. Varuk promised he would show the galaxy there were no human warships. We will bring back wreckage, he declared, or proof that nothing exists there at all. The fleet left in fire and light, engines burning bright as they cut across the void. Days passed, weeks. Then a message arrived. It was broken, filled with static, but the words were clear enough to freeze the council's chamber. It moves, the voice said. It is not a planet. It is, and then the signal cut off. 50 ships gone. No survivors. No wreckage. Only silence. The council tried to hide it, but the truth slipped into the streets, into the bars, into the markets. Fear became panic. The people no longer laughed. They whispered instead, the warships are real. The council called it a disaster, but not proof. They ordered the people to remain calm. They told them the fleet had fallen to pirates or hidden mines. But no one believed them. Krava returned again, his voice sharp now. You mock the myths, he said. But I tell you this, what you saw is not myth. It is a warning. The humans left their warships behind, waiting for the day they would rise again. You think them weak, but you do not understand their kind. They never built anything without reason. If they hid their ships, it was not to scare children. It was to finish something they began. But the council could not admit fear. Pride ruled them more than wisdom. They ordered another expedition, this time not scouts or fleets, but machines, drones and probes, thousands of them, to swarm the system and map it completely. The probes entered the dark system, their signals blinking across the stars. At first, everything was normal. Empty space, a red star, scattered rocks. Then, one by one, the probes went dark. No explosion, no warning, no damage. Just gone. The last probe sent an image before it vanished. A shadow, vast and sharp, cutting across the star. It was too large, too perfect, too alive to be a rock. The image lasted only seconds, but it was enough. In the deepest parts of the council, where the leaders hid from the people, they whispered among themselves. Some wanted to declare war and destroy whatever hid in the system. Some wanted to close the borders and pretend nothing existed. And some, very few, admitted what they all feared to say. The legends were true. Yet still, before the people they laughed. They stood tall, their voices filled with empty pride. There is nothing to fear, they said. There are no human warships. Only lies. But in the streets, the whispers grew louder. Merchants began changing their routes, avoiding the dead system. Explorers refused to travel near it. Even the military grew restless, for soldiers are quick to smell truth in the air. The forgotten warning had returned. The myths of human warships were no longer stories for children. They were shadows on the edge of vision, voices in the dark, silence where life should be. And though the council tried to bury it, every alien heart felt the same chill. Something was waiting, something ancient, something human. At first, they thought it was a planet. The probe's image had shown only a dark shape, vast and unmoving, blocking the dim red star. The council told themselves it was a trick, a shadow of rock, a floating world of no importance. But the soldiers who studied the image saw details the council ignored. The edges were too straight, the angles too sharp, the lines too perfect for any natural body. Rocks do not form in perfect symmetry. Shadows do not hum with power. And yet the shadow moved. Not fast, not obvious, but enough to make every watcher feel the cold bite of truth. The fleet they had sent, the one with 50 ships, had not vanished to pirates or mines. They had faced something impossible, something alive, something built by hands long forgotten. The council tried to cover this discovery, but rumors spread faster than light. In space stations and trade routes, whispers carried the news. The human warship had been seen. Some called it the Leviathan, a name stolen from old human tales of sea monsters that slept beneath the waves. Others called it the Ghost, for no ship had ever faced it and returned to speak. Whatever the name, fear grew. In the outer colonies, alien miners swore they saw strange lights in the distance. Traders reported navigation errors near the dead system, as if space itself bent around something too large to ignore. And in the secret chambers of the council, pride began to crack. They had spent years mocking the stories, but the shadow was real, and shadows do not kill fleets by accident. So they sent another mission, smaller this time, not to fight but to watch. A handful of stealth scouts slipped into the dark system, their hulls coated with invisible material, their engines dimmed to silence. They moved slow, careful like thieves sneaking into a giant's home. For a while they saw nothing but the faint glow of the star and the endless black around it. Then one scout gasped. There it was. The shadow filled their vision. At first it seemed endless, stretching across the void like a wall of metal. The scouts could not measure it. Their instruments failed, their signals broke, their readings turned to static. All they had was sight, and sight was enough. The warship was not a planet, but it was larger than one. Its surface was covered in layers of armor, so thick they looked like mountain ranges. Towers and spires rose from its back, glowing faint with the light of old power still alive. The front of the ship was sharp, a spear of black metal pointed at the stars, as if ready to pierce anything in its way. And it was silent, completely silent. No signal, no call, no motion. Yet every alien aboard the scouts felt the same thing. The ship was watching them. It did not need to move. It did not need to speak. Its very presence was a warning. The scouts sent back images, and for the first time, the council chamber was silent. No laughter, no mockery, no pride, only fear. The warship was real. The legends were alive. Some counselors wanted to destroy it before it could awaken, but the military commanders refused. We already lost fleets to this thing, they said. If it wakes, no number of ships will be enough. Others argued they should leave it alone, seal the system, and forget. But one question hung in every mind. Why was it here? If humans were gone, if Earth was only dust, why did this warship remain? What was it waiting for? In the scout ships, the tension grew heavy. The crew whispered to each other, afraid even of their own voices. One young officer said it aloud, trembling as she spoke. It looks asleep. The word spread like fire. Asleep. The Leviathan was not dead. It was not broken. It was only resting. And if something sleeps, then one day it will wake. The scouts pulled back, their engines shaking as they fled the system. The images they carried could not be denied. The people of the galaxy saw them, and panic began. Merchants abandoned trade routes. colonies demanded protection, and whole fleets were recalled from the frontiers. Everywhere, the same question whispered. How many more of these ships exist? Was this the only one, or just the first to be found? In the council chamber, the leaders argued, but their voices were hollow now. For the first time, they were not mocking humans. For the first time, they were afraid of them. The myths had taken shape. The shadow had become real. And somewhere, deep in the silence of space, the Leviathan waited, vast and patient, like a predator that knows its prey will come close sooner or later. At first, they thought it was a planet. Then they saw it move. The stars trembled the moment it happened, though no one could explain why. For the awakening of something so vast was not just a sight, but a feeling that stretched across the void like a storm before lightning. The Leviathan had been silent for centuries, a shadow in the dark. But shadows cannot stay still forever. The scouts who first saw it had whispered that it looked asleep, and now their words came true in the most terrifying way. Without warning, the black hull of the warship lit with deep lines of fire, thin cracks of light spreading across its surface like veins glowing under the skin of a giant. The light was not natural, not random, but precise, patterns that hummed with ancient human design. One by one, the engines at its rear came alive, their glow brighter than the red star nearby, drowning it in pale white fury. Alarms screamed on the scout ships, still lurking at the edge of the system. Their captains ordered retreat, but even as they turned, they knew they were too close. The Leviathan's sensors had awakened, and though the ship gave no sound, no words, no message, every alien felt it. The crushing weight of being noticed. The warship turned slowly, a mountain of metal shifting with impossible grace. It was not fast, but its size made the smallest motion terrifying. Its shadow swallowed the scouts, and one ship panicked, firing weapons into the dark. The beams struck the Leviathan's armor and vanished without mark, like rain falling into an endless sea. Then the warship moved faster. A single pulse of energy rippled from its core, invisible yet strong enough to tear apart two scouts instantly. The others tried to flee, their engines screaming, but the Leviathan did not chase. It did not need to. It had already proven its truth. The survivors carried back fragments of data, broken images, and voices filled with terror. When the council received them, the chamber was silent. So silent that every alien could hear their own hearts. They could no longer laugh. They could no longer call it myth. The Leviathan was awake. Some counselors demanded immediate war, but their voices shook with fear. If we wait, it will destroy us all, they cried. We must strike now before it fully awakens. Others shouted that war was madness, that nothing could fight a ship the size of a planet. One commander said the words no one wished to hear. If this is only one, we are already doomed. Outside the chamber, panic tore through the galaxy. News spread faster than any order could stop it. Colonies prepared to flee their homes. Traders abandoned their ships in fear of being caught near the warship's path. Whole empires whispered prayers to gods they had forgotten. And in the shadows of the council, Krava the historian stood with sad eyes. I warned you, he said softly. The humans did not build these ships as toys. They built them with purpose. They left them here for a reason, and now that reason returns. But no one wanted to hear. Pride was gone. Fear ruled every voice now. While the galaxy trembled, the Leviathan itself did not rush. Its engines burned steady but slow. Its massive form shifted through the system, scanning, searching, waiting. Some believed it was looking for intruders. Some believed it was testing its ancient systems, making sure its weapons were ready. But the oldest and darkest fear was that it was not awake by accident. Something had called it. Something had triggered it. And if one had awakened, then others might be stirring across the stars. In space stations, soldiers refused orders to move closer. Captains resigned rather than lead fleets into the dark. Ordinary people clung to the old stories, speaking of human vengeance, of human patience, of human wrath. And in those stories, One truth echoed again and again. Humans never built weapons without purpose. The awakening of the Leviathan was not random. It was a signal, a promise, a warning to the galaxy. The myths had walked out of the shadows, and the stars themselves seemed smaller now under its glow. The ship did not speak, but its silence was louder than any words. It was the silence before thunder, the pause before fire. The Leviathan was awake, and the galaxy could feel the weight of its gaze. The Council finally understood the old human message carved into history. If you ever see our warships again, it will not be by accident. And now the accident had become reality. The galaxy stood on the edge of something greater than fear, something worse than death. The Leviathan was awake. It was only the beginning. For the first time, the Leviathan spoke. Its voice was not a shout of sound, but a transmission that shook every frequency across the system. It was deep and heavy, old and sharp, carrying the weight of centuries. The message spread not only to the scout ships, still hiding, but across long-distance relays, carried on every channel, reaching worlds and stations far beyond the system. The words were simple, but they froze the galaxy in silence. This is only one. The aliens who heard it trembled. It was not a warning from an alien empire. It was human. The language was unmistakable, the tone filled with something no machine could fake. Humanity had spoken, not through flesh, but through steel, through the giant that floated in the void. The council chamber was thrown into chaos. Some shouted that it was impossible, that humans were extinct. Others cried that humans must be hiding somewhere, still alive, still watching. But the truth that sank into every mind was worse. Maybe humans did not need to return, because their machines had never left. Across the galaxy, the people listened. Miners in the asteroid belts froze when the words echoed through their helmets. Farmers on green worlds dropped their tools as the message filled their skies. Soldiers on distant outposts gripped their weapons tighter, as if they could fight a legend. The same phrase repeated again and again in every tongue as the Leviathan's systems translated it. This is only one. The meaning was clear. If the galaxy thought one warship was terrifying, then they had seen nothing. There were more. Perhaps hundreds. Perhaps thousands. Perhaps enough to eclipse the stars. In the dead system, the Leviathan's voice did not stop. A second message followed, long and slow, heavy with static but clear enough to hear. Humanity remembers. The historian Cravel wept when he heard it. For decades he had begged the council to listen, to believe the myths, to study the warnings. Now the myths were no longer tales. They were alive, speaking in the voices of ghosts. Cravel whispered to himself. They left their warships behind, not because they were weak, but because they planned for this. They wanted to return, even if flesh failed. The council panicked. Orders were shouted, fleets were called, and leaders argued over what to do. Some demanded they negotiate with whatever remained of humanity. Others demanded the warship be destroyed at once before the rest could awaken. But the commanders of fleets spoke bitterly. We already lost 50 ships without a single scar on that thing. How do you fight something that cannot be harmed? Fear spread faster than command. Civilizations that once mocked Earth began to send desperate messages, offering peace, offering submission, even offering tribute to a power that had not yet revealed itself. The Leviathan answered none of them. It did not open channels, did not send diplomats, did not even acknowledge the desperate pleas of empires. It spoke only the same words, again and again, like a hammer striking an iron bell. This is only one, humanity remembers. On distant worlds, children asked their parents who the humans were and why the galaxy was so afraid. Parents whispered old stories, stories they had once laughed at, now spoken with trembling lips. Stories of a species too stubborn to die, too creative to stop, too dangerous to underestimate. The galaxy had mocked them as weak, but weakness does not leave behind warships that rival planets. The Leviathan's voice was not rage, not yet, but it was colder than rage. It was certainty. It was inevitability. In the council chamber, silence fell once more. Pride was gone. Every leader knew the truth. If this was only one, then the galaxy was already living on borrowed time. Across the void, the Leviathan drifted slowly, engines burning, its vast shape casting shadows on nearby stars. It moved not like a predator in hunger, but like a judge waiting to pass sentence. The warship had awakened, and it had spoken. Humanity was not forgotten. Humanity had not been erased. Humanity's message was clear. What comes next would not be stopped. And as the words echoed across every world, fear turned into something worse than fear. It turned into certainty that the galaxy's age of comfort had ended, and a new age was beginning. An age written not by alien empires, but by the hands of humans who no longer needed flesh to speak. The galaxy once mocked the myths, but now it watched in silence as the Leviathan prepared to move, and when it moved, the stars themselves seemed to dim. The warship had awakened fully, its engines burning brighter than suns, its hull glowing with rivers of light that stretched across its endless body. The Council had ordered fleets to respond, though most commanders hesitated, for they had already seen what happened to those who came too close. Still, pride forced them forward, and soon thousands of ships gathered at the edge of the dead system, their weapons armed, their crews trembling. They did not come to win, they came to prove to themselves that legends could still be broken. But legends are not so fragile. The Leviathan gave no warning. One moment it drifted silent, the next its weapons spoke with fury beyond reason. A single beam of light cut across the void, and 100 ships were gone, erased in silence, as if they had never existed. Explosions lit the black sky as fleets scrambled, firing everything they had: missiles, plasma cannons, disruptors, beams of energy that could level moons. All of it struck the Leviathan's armor and vanished without leaving a scar. The warship did not dodge, did not shield, did not even bother to answer every shot. It simply advanced like a storm that could not be stopped. The alien commanders screamed orders, but their voices cracked with fear. Some begged their crews to fight, others begged them to run, but it made no difference. The Leviathan's weapons fired again and again, each strike destroying more ships than an entire armada could in years of war. Panic spread as fleets broke apart, turning to flee, yet there was no escape. The Leviathan's reach was endless, its weapons striking faster than light, tearing ships apart before they could even turn. For the first time in living memory, whole empires saw their strongest navies burn to ash in hours. Civilizations that had survived centuries of conquest collapsed in a single night before a ship built by a species they once mocked as weak. From planets nearby, people watched the sky and saw fire bloom among the stars. Children cried as fleets that had sworn to protect them vanished into sparks. Leaders begged for peace, sending desperate transmissions across every channel, but the Leviathan answered with silence. It had no need to speak. Its message was already written in the wreckage floating across space. Humanity remembers. Humanity returns. The historian Krava watched the reports come in his old eyes, filled with both horror and awe. He had studied the humans all his life, and now he saw their truth. They built these ships to end wars, he whispered, and now war is ending. On the council floor, chaos turned to despair. No one argued now about myths or pride. No one mocked. They only begged for survival. But the Leviathan showed no mercy. Its fury was precise, each strike chosen, each fleet destroyed with purpose, as if it were following a plan written long ago. It did not kill blindly, but every empire that had laughed, every commander that had doubted, every council that had mocked humanity's name found their ships burning first. Fire filled the void, a storm of destruction that no empire could resist. Some tried to hide their fleets among colonies, but the Leviathan's sensors found them. Some tried to use secret weapons, but nothing pierced its armor. Some even tried to self-destruct, near hoping to damage it, but the Leviathan moved through the explosions without slowing, as if nothing in existence could touch it. When the last surviving commander finally called for surrender, the warship gave no reply. Surrender meant nothing to a machine built not to conquer, but to remind. The galaxy had mocked the legends of human warships, Now those legends had become the last sight millions would ever see. In the silence that followed, wreckage drifted across the stars, glowing faint against the black. Entire fleets erased, whole empires humbled in hours. The Leviathan did not celebrate, did not roar in victory. It simply stood among the ashes like a monument to human wrath. Fire in the void burned bright, and then faded, leaving only silence behind. And in that silence, the galaxy understood the truth. This was only one. The galaxy was silent after the fire had ended, and where once thousands of warships had filled the void, now only drifting wreckage remained glowing faintly in the light of distant stars. Every empire, every council, every ruler who had mocked the myths sat in fear, for the truth had been shown, and it was undeniable. The humans had returned, and they had not come with words or treaties or peaceful gestures. They had come with the Leviathan, and through its silence they had spoken louder than any voice. Across the galaxy, whispers spread that more of these ships might exist, that the Leviathan was not alone, that for every empire destroyed tonight, another ship could appear tomorrow. Some hoped it was only one, a relic from an ancient war forgotten by time, but deep in their hearts they knew the truth. Humanity would never build just one. On the council floor, the surviving leaders argued, in panic, no longer about human weakness, but about human purpose. Would they destroy all of us? Some cried. Would they cleanse the stars until nothing was left? Others begged for peace, for any chance to prove their loyalty. But no human answered. The Leviathan drifted through the void, ignoring their desperate transmissions, ignoring their attempts at surrender. It moved with a will that was both machine and memory, as if following orders given long ago by voices that no longer spoke. In secret archives long sealed, historians unearthed fragments of old records that spoke of the exile. They revealed how the humans had once been pushed from the galaxy, cast out by the same empires that now begged for mercy. They had been called dangerous, uncontrollable, too ambitious to be allowed among the stars. And so the council had betrayed them, sending fleets to force them into the void beyond known space. But instead of dying, the humans had endured. They had built in the dark, built in silence, built in anger. Now their creations had returned. The message was clear, not spoken, but written in fire. Humanity had not forgotten. Humanity had not forgiven. On distant colonies, people watched the Leviathan appear, in orbit, its shadow falling across their worlds. Fear spread through cities, but the ship did not fire. It hovered silent, its vast body blotting out the sky, then drifted away, leaving only terror behind. It was not conquest, it was a warning. Every world it passed felt the same cold truth. Humanity was back, and they would decide what came next. The younger species of the galaxy, those who had not been part of the exile, now whispered of hope. They saw in the humans not only wrath, but strength that could break the old tyrannies that had ruled for centuries. To them, the Leviathan was not just destruction, it was justice long delayed. And so rumors spread of planets preparing to rise against their own empires, calling to the humans for alliance, even if no answer came. The council feared this most, for they knew power was shifting. Humanity had no need to conquer, the galaxy would break itself and fall into their hands. Krava, the historian, who had always believed in the old myths, now stood before a silent crowd. His voice trembled as he spoke. We laughed at legends, we mocked their name, but we should have remembered. Humanity is the storm. They do not ask, they do not beg, they simply return. His words echoed across networks, replayed again and again until all knew them. The Leviathan at last came to rest above a ruined battlefield, its weapons silent, its engines dim. For days it did not move, and many thought perhaps it would finally sleep again. But then its lights flared, and from its vast hull a signal pulsed through the stars. It was not in any alien tongue, it was human, and though only a few could translate it, the meaning soon spread to every corner of the galaxy. The message was simple. We remember. We return. The galaxy is ours. Fear and awe mixed as the words were heard. Some fell to their knees, others clenched their fists in rage, but none could deny the truth. Humanity was no longer myth, no longer legend. They were real, and they were here. As the Leviathan vanished into the dark, its shadow seemed to linger across every world, a reminder that no star was beyond their reach. And in that moment, the galaxy knew its age had ended. The era of the old empires was over. The era of humanity had begun.